There are very few figures from ancient history whose reputation has survived quite like Cleopatra's. For centuries, she has been portrayed as the ultimate symbol of beauty, intelligence, and seduction. Paintings, films, and novels have all reinforced the same image: a mesmerizing queen whose charm brought the most powerful men in the world to their knees. But history is rarely that simple. Behind the glamour and romance lies a far stranger story, one involving ruthless ambition, bizarre beauty rituals, and a level of political manipulation that would make even the most skilled modern strategists uncomfortable. So, who was Cleopatra really? Was she truly the enchanting ruler history remembers? Or was there something far more calculating behind her rise to power? To understand that, we have to start with the myth of her beauty. Ironically, many ancient historians weren't particularly impressed by Cleopatra's appearance. Writers who actually lived closer to her time described her as pleasant, but not extraordinarily beautiful. Instead, they emphasized something far more powerful: her presence. Cleopatra reportedly possessed an almost hypnotic charisma. Her voice, her humor, and her intelligence were said to be so captivating that people rarely noticed her physical flaws. She could hold conversations on politics, philosophy, medicine, and mathematics with equal ease. And perhaps most impressively, she could speak numerous languages, allowing her to communicate directly with foreign leaders without interpreters. In a world where rulers often relied on translators, this ability gave her enormous influence in negotiations. But intelligence alone didn't secure her power. Cleopatra understood something that many rulers before her had ignored. Image was everything. She carefully crafted the persona of a living goddess. In ancient Egypt, religion and politics were deeply intertwined, and Cleopatra used this to her advantage. She publicly associated herself with the powerful goddess Isis, presenting herself not merely as a queen, but as the divine embodiment of the deity on earth. Temples honored her. Ceremonies were held in her name, and subjects were encouraged to see her not just as a ruler, but as a sacred figure. For someone born into a foreign Greek dynasty ruling Egypt, this strategy was brilliant, but maintaining the illusion of divine perfection required unusual methods. Cleopatra was famously obsessed with beauty treatments. One of the most persistent legends describes her bathing in donkey milk. While the number of animals involved may be exaggerated, the practice itself wasn't unheard of. Donkey milk contains lactic acid, which can soften and exfoliate skin. In other words, Cleopatra may have been experimenting with skincare techniques that resemble modern cosmetic treatments. But milk baths were only the beginning. She was also fascinated by early forms of chemistry and perfume making. Cleopatra reportedly maintained perfume workshops near the Dead Sea, where fragrances were developed using rare oils and botanical ingredients. These perfumes were more than luxury items. They were tools of influence. Strong scents were believed to affect mood and emotion, and Cleopatra used them strategically during meetings and social gatherings. Some historians even speculate that she used fragrance as a subtle psychological weapon, ensuring her presence was both memorable and intoxicating. Yet her greatest talent wasn't perfume or cosmetics. It was politics. Cleopatra was born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek family that had ruled Egypt since the time of Alexander the Great. The dynasty was infamous for its brutal internal rivalries. Siblings frequently married each other to preserve the royal bloodline. They also frequently tried to kill each other. Cleopatra's own rise to power was surrounded by betrayal, alliances, and deadly family conflicts. After the death of her father, she was forced to rule alongside her younger brother and husband, Ptolemy XIII. But Cleopatra had little interest in sharing authority. Before long, political tensions escalated into open conflict, forcing her into exile. Most rulers might have disappeared from history at that point. Cleopatra did the opposite. She returned to Egypt and formed one of the most famous alliances in history, with Julius Caesar himself. According to legend, Cleopatra arranged to be secretly smuggled into Caesar's quarters, wrapped inside a carpet or bed sack. When the bundle was opened, the young queen emerged dramatically in front of the Roman general. Whether the story is exaggerated or not, the message was clear. Cleopatra knew exactly how to make an entrance, and it worked. Caesar supported her claim to the throne, helping restore her to power. Later, she would form another legendary partnership with Mark Antony, one that blended romance, politics, and spectacle on a massive scale. Together, they hosted extravagant feasts, lavish celebrations, and legendary parties in Alexandria. But while the festivities captured the imagination of the ancient world, the political consequences were enormous. Their alliance ultimately drew the attention and anger of Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus. What followed would become one of the most dramatic conclusions in ancient history: a final war, a collapsing empire, and the tragic end of Egypt's last queen. Yet even today, Cleopatra remains one of the most fascinating figures ever to rule. Not simply because of beauty or romance, but because she understood something timeless about power. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon a ruler can possess isn't an army. It's the ability to control how the world sees them.